If you do not have styles, if you just say, well, here I am, as a human being, how can I express myself totally and completely? Now, that way, you won't create a style, because style is a crystallization.
All right, welcome back to the Al's Drum School podcast with me, Al, and
Jordan. How you doing, Al?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
It's always a pleasure to be here, Al.
It's always a bit funny this bit as well, because we pretend like we've not been sat here together for the last 2 hours.
We pretend like I've just walked in the room
exactly.
and we haven't seen each other for weeks. We've been in the same room for 3 hours. I love an intro.
But it's an intro, and it is what it is. But we're back here.
Don't show them behind the curtain, Al. We're showing them behind the curtain. That's no good.
Right. Not too much. Don't give too much info. TMI.
Don't ruin the magic.
I heard the abbreviation TMI the other day, and I thought,
too much info.
I got it. Yeah, got it.
It's like when, if you're at Disneyland and Mickey Mouse, his head falls off. It's ruined the whole magic. I know it's not Mickey anymore.
Mate, there's kids listening to this.
I know, it's unbelievable. Oh, sorry, kids. Don't listen to this one. Skip this one.
Anyway, we're back here at the studio in our little cave in Brighton, recording some content for you. We've just finished filming a load of lessons. Didn't get as many done as we liked because of battery power. It's always the way.
Always the tech.
Yeah, it's always the tech. But we got some stuff done, so keep an eye out for that as well. But we're back. We're going to talk a little bit about drumming, some little bit of drumming news, business life. Jordan's going to Google drumming again, because that's my favourite bit. He thinks he's getting away with it, but that's going to stay in this podcast till the end of time.
Can't wait.
What we will hopefully build up to that he doesn't know about yet is we're going to get him actually playing one day. When we've got the dream set up and we've got all the rooms set up, Jordan's going to have his own little office with a drum kit in it.
When you say playing, do you mean like Lego or something? Obviously not the drums, obviously.
We're drummers, mate. We're not smart enough for Lego. You know that. So we're going to go through our usual segments. We haven't got tea today. We just smashed our coffees, and we got coffees from McDonald's this week, and they are turbo.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone out there has ever tried a McDonald's coffee, but it's full power.
Although if you listen to the last tea time with Jordan and Al, you'll know the two coffees locally are rubbish, and this is much better. McDonald's is the better coffee. I'm not saying it's great coffee, but it's better than the other muck, and the other muck is coming from proper coffee houses, artisan coffee houses. It's nonsense, and it's about 4 times the price. It's just
so basically, we hate local coffee. No, we don't. I'm joking.
Well,
we just
I do.
We prefer McDonald's coffee. Anyway, we're going a little bit off subject here. We've only just started.
Anyway, it's also exciting. We've got our first sponsor. It's McDonald's. Although if the McDonald's people are listening, send us free stuff.
Yeah, if you want. Yeah,
love
like
McDonald's.
Send me McPlant burgers. Well, I've recently started eating chicken. Although.
Oh no, I didn't know this.
About McDonald's. Why are we talking about McDonald's?
I don't know. Skip the McDonald's chat.
Let's get into it. So, yeah, as I was saying, we're going to talk biz talk. We're going to talk dad life. We're going to do Jordan Google's drumming, and we're just going to have a little chat. We haven't got tea. We got water. We've drank our coffee. End of intro.
What an intro.
That's where we'll cut. So, what's new? What's new in your life? Tell me, what's going on?
Oh, what has been going on? It's been busy. It's been a busy few weeks since we were last in the room together, to be honest. We said this morning we got in the same room. It's nice to be back in the studio, to be back together again, working away. There's been a lot going on. I mean, for those who've listened to other podcasts, they know that I'm involved in my own business and a few other businesses. It's been a crazy busy time. I think because of everything that's going on in the world, the uncertainty, economic stability, all that sort of stuff, government's changing every other week, or Prime Minister's changing every other week at least. I think there's so much uncertainty around, and actually I do want to get into that at some point with you, about with my clients. I'm starting to see my clients are realising that they're almost in the luxury business game because they're not a necessity. The product or service they're offering isn't a necessity. And I know we had this conversation the other week that we realise now that we're falling in that category. So for anyone listening who's a business owner who's got to guide their business through these times, the interesting thing is your service and your product has to be so on point now, because if everyone's tightening their belts and you become too noisy, too problematic, you let people down, you will be culled from their spend, and that's where we were talking last week about what we can do more for our customers, for our clients, for our students, to make sure that it's still a luxury learning the drums, but we want it to be part of their life. We want it to be so exciting that it's not something that they can give up. And I know that's changing our approach to things.
Yeah, and something that just came to mind hearing you say that as well is like, actually, I want this, or we also want this to be a bit of a release from all that madness as well. You know, like we want people to be able to come down here, and yeah, of course they're paying for it, and you know we're grateful that they want to spend their money with us, but hopefully they're getting more than that cash value in return, right? Like that's kind of what we're
absolutely, and I think that's the point, is that there's been a little bit too much, or I'm seeing a little bit too much for my liking, of businesses rest on their morals a little bit. They've stopped focusing on how they can better serve the customer. You know, it's a privilege to have someone walk through your door. If you own a cafe and someone walks through your door and orders food, that is a privilege, and the second you lose that, the second you expect it, the quality will slip everywhere, and once that quality slips, you will get eaten up. And this, you know, whether or not we are headed for a recession, all this other stuff, this is gonna, I think it will clear out some people who've lost control of the quality.
Yeah, I agree. And I guess actually what we've started this week with is our biz talk. We'll start with it this week because that's kind of where we've naturally gone. And it's, for me, the more we grow and the more we do and the more that's on our plate here at ADS, the more that stuff's important, the more we have to be delivering on that. And you know, and I like to think I'm the first one to put my hands up when I do drop the ball, because that does happen for lots of reasons. You know, like again, the little 6-month-old tiny human that lives in my house with me now is the biggest reason that I'm like, I'm not going to go into it, but I'm exhausted all the time, so my brain power is a little bit less than what it normally would be. But my point is, the more we grow, the more conscious I become of how we deliver that and how we keep that quality up, particularly when, you know, as we spoke about in the last episode, that I am spending less time here. You know, I'm not, the students are aware of that. I've spoken to many parents about it and students, and we don't need to go into my reasons for that, but it's more important that stuff is upheld, and more important that we try and bring that culture into our business, right, and into our staff and the guys that are teaching here, so that we can A, support them in that, and B, so that they can support the business in that way. Like, that's really important. And as I say, I'm definitely not perfect. I do drop the ball with that, but we try to keep that quality high.
But the acknowledgement of that is part of the solution. People who think that, you know, if you make a mistake, it's over, that's nonsense. If you're an entrepreneur or a business owner, whatever you want to label it, in any way, you better get used to failing and almost enjoy. Like, I hate losing. I'm a competitive person, but I almost enjoy failing, because it means you know, it's cliche, but you don't win or lose, you win or learn. And if you do not learn and you've lost, that's your problem. You will always learn something from that loss, whether that's a failed business or an idea that didn't work, a product launch that flopped. You'll learn from it and you won't do it again. And you know, I think anyone who approaches anything that they're so scared to fail or scared to lose that they've got decision paralysis about even doing it, that's not a good place to be for anything in life, not just business, actually.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree, and I like that. If you win or learn.
Yeah.
Never heard that one about that.
I'm sure it's out of a self-help book somewhere. One of the millions that I've read. Yeah, Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss. Shout out to them.
So while we're talking about biz stuff, let's talk about some of the.
Well, actually, I'm going to interrupt. I just wanted to say, you said, you know, we don't need to go into why you're less time in the studio right now. But if anyone does want to know, we talked about it a lot in the last tea time. And also, it's important to realise and to tell other people that actually you had become operator mode and not owner mode, and you were getting so bogged down in the daily operations of the business that taking that step back hasn't actually, as you know, led to any less work. It's led to a lot more work, but arguably more important work that's going to impact the business a lot more than just, you know, worrying about the day to day, which really we've got a lockdown on anyway. So
yeah, and that actually like kind of leans into what I was going to say, was like, what are the, like, I want to ask you and then open up the conversation as well, that because there's been things for me, like the question I'm asking is like, what's the biggest things we've learned since, you know, like, we kind of do things in quarters. I mean, we're not the only business that does that, obviously, but like,
what a radical concept.
Aren't we so new age? So we work in quarters here, and we look at like what we've learned, where the growth was, all that type of stuff, and we're in the final one for this year, nearly. Well, you know, we're halfway through it. So I wanted to ask you, and if you wanted to ask me anything around it as well, like what the biggest things we've learned since me taking this step back are as we move into the final quarter of this year. There's been I'll let you answer first. Yeah, I just asked the question. I'm just going to answer it myself.
Yeah, I'll tackle the question that you posed to me. That would be nice. I think for me, and it's not necessarily something that I've learnt. It's more that we, as a partnership and as a business, have learnt, or have even not learnt. We knew of it, but have put it in place. Is less of the selling, less of that, and more giving away. And I think, you know, it's very easy to sit here and say you should give, and then take. And people know that, really. If you give as a business owner, if you give to your community, you give to your customer base, you keep serving those people, then you're building fans, customers, fans, whatever you want to call them. And then when you do ask, you have those people ready to come in. Too many people approach it the other way. They try and sell straight away. I had a client on the phone the other day, or a possible new client, and it was just a painful conversation because they just wanted to sell straight away. They didn't do much on social media. Their website was pretty poor, so they wanted to put all this stuff in place. Everything was about selling, and you better have a massive budget if you are asking to sell from day one, because you're still going to need to convince people through your ads and everything. The product needs to be on point. There's very few companies that from day one manage to sell. You even talk about startups valued at billions of pounds, and whether that's right or wrong, oftentimes the product is way down the line. They've got the valuation and they start building the fans and they start building the blah blah blah, and then they'll launch their product. And I think you and I, from recent conversations, we've been doing the same thing, thinking about how we can give more to our customer base, whether that's through free lessons, advice, guidance, mentorship, whatever that product ends up being. And it is still a product. We still, especially you the quality control you put on the videos, even sometimes I wouldn't put necessarily that high quality product, but you do want to, which is fantastic. And it means that the customers are going to get the very best thing for free. And if you're talking selfishly, I will stop this monologue in a minute. If you're talking selfishly from a business point of view, that is still a product. You're still getting your face, your logo, your voice, your guidance, your product, your service in front of potential customers. But getting used to giving it away for free and still seeing the value in that is just as important as scratching every pound you can out of things. And bear in mind, I'm saying this as we're hyper aware that we're heading into a recession or an economic downturn of the like that we've probably not seen for at least since 2008. And I think that's going to be really important for other business owners to understand. Otherwise, I think they're going to really struggle in the months ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
Don't ask me to repeat that answer.
You sum that up in a sentence. No, I'm kidding. So, like, I think that's what our partnership is about. Is you're always coming from that angle of to excuse the phrase, but like the sort of super business head of it, and I'm always trying to come from it from knowing my customer base or our customer base and knowing what it's like to be in yada yada yada. So, and
it really works, because there's been times that I've had ideas and it's not necessarily the idea's bad or whatever, but you go, this wouldn't work with these because let's mold it this way.
Because my experience in the drum industry tells me that this is why these things are. It doesn't mean we can't change them. We want to try things and do things in a different way, and that's not what I mean. I don't dig my heels and be like, that's the way it is. Like, we are trying to do things differently, but there is also certain things that are dictated by the industry that they just don't float for whatever. I struggle to think of an example, but anyway. But that is definitely one of the realizations I've had in the last couple of months, is that, so we've launched a couple of products, and like, I want to be honest, like, they haven't really worked that well in terms of we haven't made any sales, or we haven't made like substantial sales, and I believe the reason for that is several things, but mostly because we need to build that audience first. So today is a perfect example. I just filmed a couple of lessons that were going to go in part of a course, but do you know what? Again, I'm being honest with this and being open. We're going to give them away, because why not? Like, let's just give them to people. At the moment where we currently are as a business, our bricks and mortar is our bread and butter. It's just what's keeping us afloat. Our online presence is an ongoing thing. We are going up against so many other competitors in the online space, as everybody is, right? I get that. But it's always like, for me, it has to, how do I want to say this? So I want people to really want to buy things from us. And the way we get them to do that is our know, like, and trust factor. We give them everything first. Give. and then, like you say, then go, oh, and if you do want to buy something from us, then great. However we word that. But anyway, I'm to summarize what I'm saying, my biggest takeaway from this quarter is we're not giving enough free stuff away, basically, in the digital world.
Which is madness. I mean, people listening have to realise that we're two business people saying that.
Yeah.
We have bills to pay, we have overheads, we need to make money,
Yeah.
as every business does. This, we haven't, it's not like we've come in with £1 million each, popped that in a pot and gone, let's play around for 5 years. No, nowhere near. So we still need to make money, but
let's be honest, like, we have no capital for this business.
Very little.
Like,
it's been done on a
when
shoestring,
I say no, like, everything's bootstrapped, and we're trying to figure out as we go.
Totally, and built totally on a shoestring for several years before I
was a shed in my
got
garden.
involved. Yeah, exactly.
Quite
but
literally.
I love that story. I mean, the history books are littered with people who started with huge budgets and flopped. And then you look at the Googles, the Amazons, the Apples. I know it's cliche, and you could argue that, okay, he got this help, he got that help, but they still started in a garage, and so have we, or so have you. And then I've come on board, and even my business started in a shed in my nan's garden. So, and I think it's daft to say now that we haven't got any capital, because we know there's now a blanket there that we can play around, we can do this new stuff, we can launch podcasts and all that thing. The business is safe. But I think that's having that mindset of knowing now is the time to do X, Y, Z, so that it doesn't become unsafe, is important. And it's not the easiest lesson to learn.
Definitely not, especially as you say, it's quite easy to get a little bit desperate when cash is low. Like, we need to sell, but actually, again,
that is absolutely spot on, and that's what I'm seeing. A lot of my clients suddenly calling me and going, right, we want to change the marketing plan, we want to change this, we need to sell X amount in this long to make sure we can make wages, to make sure we can do this. And it's just not the way to do it. And if the other thing they do is immediately cut costs, immediately withdraw everything back, oftentimes cutting where the results are coming from. If you're going to cut costs, you need to make sure those costs are being cut from places that aren't going to make an impact. This might sound biased to me saying this, but if you suddenly cut your marketing package, or you cut your spending, you're going to notice a massive retraction in leads, in sales. And the issue is, when you do that, getting the ball rolling again is very difficult. We've said from day one, we have a plan for where this business is going. We know where we're going to go, or what we're working towards. But if that starts to snowball and takes us in a completely different direction, we're not going to try and stop it. Of course. We're going to go with it. Because if you try and stop it, you try and fight that tide, you'll lose. And not only will you lose, but you'll never know how big the snowball could have got.
Totally. Yeah.
And
sure.
I know we've had a lot of conversations about this.
Absolutely, and there's still just every day is new, and we learn as we go. We'll just keep filling in the listeners on what's happening. I think that's kind of where it's at for us right now.
I'd like to know if there's anything else from you though that you've learned over the last quarter, or even the last year, to be honest, because we've changed.
I mean, if we summarise the last year, I think obviously the big thing has been stepping back, like that, like learning. And actually, so I want to say, I don't even know if they're listening, but I want to put credit to the team we've built as well around us, right? Because
Absolutely.
This would not be happening without the guys teaching. So thanks, Guy and Chris and Riley. If you are listening, is like, not as flippant as that may sound, like we do mean that. Like, this wouldn't exist without that team. So I couldn't have taken that step back without these guys in place. So it does. That's something, that's a huge takeaway that I want to thank the guys for, but also pat myself on the back for putting that team, and
Absolutely.
You as well, like building this team around us. That it's only really as I've taken this first month away and like from the studio, I'm like, wow, like I put that together, but we are doing it, so that's a big one for me. This is kind of on an opposite point, but actually the thing that I'm like, the one thing I'm realizing, and we've spoken a little bit about it this week, is that I'm missing the drums like mad, like more than I ever expected I would. Now, my reasons for doing it, and that's not at the detriment of the joy that I get from being with my family. It's just that, I mean, and again, me and my wife have spoken at length about this. We've spoken about this, that there's drums give something more to me than just a job, and always has done and always will do. That's a kind of
Well,
brief way.
I mean, it's interesting because I'll come in and say, that's why I'm here.
Yeah.
Because you're so passionate about the
Yeah,
product.
yeah.
If you weren't that passionate about the product, I'd have very little interest in this. But someone who's that passionate about that product, whatever they have to do to make that product the best, that's something I want to be a part of. And I've said to you before, the passion for the product has come through from day one. And when I say the product, I mean the drums.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that
anything
anything
it's
else.
not like that. Again, we know what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, all those reasons, and it's only temporary and it's not forever, and that's what that is. And we're building this to a space where I can be in here full time, and that's the plan. So those are probably my biggest takeaways. I want to wrap up the biz stuff. Let's move on to let's do Jordan Google's drumming. Let's go on to Jordan Google's drumming right now. So as always, like, super unprepared.
The worst feature on radio.
Jordan just sat with me when I was filming the last bunch of lessons, so he said he's going to pull something from that. Rather than it being a Google, he's just gonna pull it out of the air, and then I'm going to
because as usual, I watched Al film some content, and I understood bits of it. But most of it was just French. I've no idea what you're saying. And,
but when I do film that as well, so anyone who hasn't been down to the studio, like, we have 2 kits in here. When I am filming, Jordan sat on the other kit, so he's getting closer and closer, and eventually he'll start tinkering.
I mean, earlier on. I did pick up the drumstick, and it felt good. So that's not a euphemism, by the way. I did it. Yeah.
So, without any further ado, Jordan, what is your word for this week's episode that I'm going to dissect for you?
The word is accent, and the reason I'm saying accent is because earlier on, and I think, like, I was watching you do it and you explain to put the accent here, so I sort of understand what that means in terms of what you were doing. But then I saw you writing out the next beat, the next notation that you were going to play, and you were changing it on the software to accent, blah blah blah. So I want to know what that means, and then what that means when you're playing as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, great. So that's really cool, actually. You picked up on that. That's great.
See, I do listen.
So I'm not I'm not going to give the word for word definition of what an accent is, because I'll probably butcher it, but I definitely understand what they are, so I can explain that to you. So, and when we are, or an accented note, or when we are accenting a note, we are using, so dynamics is another word for volume. We are using dynamics to make that note stand out. What accents do, I can't remember who said it, but there's a quote that I'm going to probably butcher a little bit, but accents are what make me a different drummer from the next guy or girl. That's what someone sort of summed that up as. And what that means to me is music comes in so many different colors and shapes and sounds, and like lots of musicians relate to music as it being a physical thing, like a color or a shape or like movements. I've always felt certain beats were like patterns in like I always imagined a wheel rolling, so sometimes that wheel rolls perfectly smooth, sometimes it's a bit wobbly, sometimes it's a square, sometimes it's super janky and it's weird. So I always had that visual thing with music, and that's what accents do for me within music. So they are, to describe what they are, yes, the accents are certain notes that are played louder than others to accentuate certain things. Often you would get accents like, so in a big band situation, or when I say big band, like a larger band that has horns, or a jazz big band, whichever one you want to think about, accents are usually picked out from the melody line, so that would be played by horns or whatever the sort of lead instrument is. If it's a jazz big band, you've got the horn section, so the drummer would pick out accents that are happening within that horn line or that melody line, so it accentuates what's happening. Or like a really common one is sort of like pop and rock, is we would hit a crash cymbal, which is this one over here, at the beginning of a chorus.
I know that much.
Then that chorus is about to happen, something's about to change within the music. Now when they're applied to what I was playing before, which was like sort of rudimentary stuff on a pad, it's how we sort of you can approach it in different ways. Accents can be used to develop technique, but also to bring colour to the music that's being played, so it kind of depends which way you're attacking it. What I was doing earlier was technique based, so those accents are put in there to develop certain muscles or certain techniques, and rather than it being all about sound. But they're also an incredibly simple thing that can bring a hell of a lot to a piece of music, you know, just by adding in certain accents or moving them around in different places. So they're really, really powerful. Really powerful.
And could that be for attention's sake? Because when I was watching you play, you know, it's a nice beat, but then the accent comes in and it sort of wakes you back up and you're back in the room and you focus on the next bit of that. So I wonder if an accent in the right place can get the listener back in the zone, you know, hearing
Absolutely.
that next
That's
track.
a really good perspective. Yeah, for sure. It can definitely do that. You know, if we were to...
I suppose the cymbal would actually be a good example. When you smash that cymbal, boom,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
back in the room.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason that I picked that one out is because I'm sort of thinking about the notation, because you mentioned I was writing it on GrooveScribe, which is awesome software. Thanks, Mike Johnson. If everyone hasn't checked it out, quick plug, go check out GrooveScribe, especially if you're a teacher, because it makes it really quick and really easy to write stuff down. So when we look at that visually, that's why I thought about the drum, the sort of the crash cymbal, because that's accented. So what you noticed on the notation as well before, I'm going to describe it for people who've never seen it. So we've got our basic drum notation. Accents can be put on any part of the drum kit, wherever you want, doesn't really matter. What it looks like is a little arrow pointing to the right over a note. So that tells us that that specific note is being accented. There isn't often, again, I could be wrong on this, forgive me, but a note's either accented or it's not. There isn't like a medium. You would decide that based on what you're hearing. So as with all sight reading for drums, you're interpreting what you're reading based on what's happening around you. If there's a really loud part in the song, then you're probably going to want to accent that even louder. If it's super quiet, you're not going to want a massive, like I actually spoke about this when I was filming this lesson, that when we're playing accents, it's not necessarily about making your accent like astronomically louder than the rest. It's more about pushing the gap between the quiet note and the louder note. So that might mean playing your quiet notes quieter.
I was going to say, you said play the quiet note.
Yeah, so like within, you know, it's about finding balance with it basically.
And is that for the listener's pleasure? You don't suddenly want something just massive for the sake of it. You
might in some situations, but generally, I mean, it's hard. Like,
just
I know
depends,
you're not asking it
yeah.
that way, but yeah, it's hard to generalize in music because every situation is different. So, so that's what accents are.
As always, I picked something that I thought this will be simple. The depth of the answer, and actually, all joking aside, I do like this feature because I leave the room knowing something I didn't know, and I hope that I don't just know the definition. I know enough that if a musician asks me what does that mean, I could explain it in the way they go, oh, he's right. So I can bluff my way through this game.
So that'll
for
be
even longer.
£17.50, please, Jordan.
Worth every penny. Is that not one of the giveaways we're talking about?
So there we have it, another instalment of Jordan Google's drumming. And as I say, one day when we've got the dream location, it's not just going to be Jordan Google's drum, it's going to be Jordan plays the flipping drums, man. We're going to get him.
Yeah.
We're going to get him. Okay.
Don't wait up for that one, guys.
So we're going to move on to some DadLife stuff. So I'm going to fill you in with what's happening with my daughter and DadLife at the moment.
Who, for those who don't know, I refer to as Big Boss Bonnie, because if it doesn't work with Bonnie's schedule, it does not get done in this drum school.
But nothing in my life gets done if it doesn't work on Bonnie's
Even me, the business partner, has to learn that Bonnie, if something comes up, and this is understandable by the way, I'm only joking, but Bonnie comes first 100%, and if Jordan says something that Bonnie doesn't approve on, it doesn't happen.
Wait till she starts talking, man.
Yeah.
Then you're going to be in real trouble.
Yeah.
So actually it happened the other night. We had a meeting the other night and I was half an hour late. And the funny thing is, right, when Bonnie was really, really small, I used to blame her for like being late all the time. Well, not all the time, whenever I was late. Now she's a little bit bigger and she actually is causing that a little bit.
You've used up that excuse
I've
already.
Too many times now. So now when I'm like, yeah, Bonnie, this is like, I get eye rolls, like, yeah, sure. And also, it's going to get to a point where it's like, oh, you just got a kid, mate. You can't just keep fucking blaming her for being late all the time. It just doesn't work. And yeah, DadLife stuff. DadLife stuff is, you know, if I'm going to be honest and open, is like really hard at the moment. Bonnie's nearly 6 months. My wife, yeah, mate. Yes, it has. The actually,
for me anyway, because I'm doing very little towards this. I'm doing very little towards this.
Jordan's been super busy with Bonnie. The sleep thing is raw. The sleep thing is intense. More intense for my wife because of the feeding and all that stuff, but equally for, you know, in many ways it's so challenging for us. Coupled with lots of feedback from Bonnie now as well. As she grows, she gets way cuter, like way more interactive. She's chatting away, she's doing all this stuff. So it's kind of like all of it lifts at the same time, the intenseness, but so does the joy. And actually this is like one of the first days I've had in the studio in a good few weeks now, so I was able to sort of play some drums and enjoy that. And actually my wife sort of I was going to say ordered. She didn't order me. She said that it would be a good idea for me to just play this morning, because I haven't just played the drums in weeks, and I'm hitting my pad and creating content and all that, but so I just switched everything off this morning and just hit. And actually something I'm learning about DadLife is that even though it's like it's hard to be away from her, like it's really, really shit to have to leave and go and do that, I also have to fill my cup so I can deliver as a dad too. Like
you can't pour from an empty cup.
Well, you can't.
Another cliche.
Exactly. And as hard as that is for me to accept, and maybe for my wife to accept as well, because Annie's her primary caregiver, and I feel this huge, it's guilt really. Like, you know, when I have to leave to go and do stuff, like I feel guilt, but I'm listening to a lot of dad stuff as well and trying to figure out how I find that balance between the two. Because again, like we spoke before, like drums is, you know, and I should also acknowledge that my wife is away from her art too. Annie's a painter. She's not able to get to it. You know, we're finding very small snippets.
Actually, we should give her more of a shout out, because she's got some amazing work.
She has
really
got some
good
amazing work. If you do want to check that out, go to the Soul Space on Instagram.
Yeah.
You can check out.
We'll put that in the
yeah,
show
we'll
notes,
link to it in the show
definitely,
notes. Yeah,
definitely.
So want to acknowledge that, you know, that the journey is arguably more intense for her. But we're managing to find little snippets of time to sort of get back to that a little bit, and as she grows, the more I think we'll get back to that. But I think, yeah, to be completely honest with the DadLife stuff, it's fucking hard. It's really intense. It's really full on. But she's great, and she offers, you know, she gives us a lot back as well. So that is that. We've got another flight coming up.
Oh no, you didn't tell me about this. So for anyone who hasn't listened, go and listen to the last tea time when we talked about flights and what a nightmare it was. I can't wait for the voice notes this time round.
We've got another flight coming up. I'm from Jersey, and I'm going home. Bonnie's first trip back to my homeland. So we're going home. We've got another flight. We've got to drive up to Scotland next week as well to go see all Annie's family. So all these dad things are going to be tested.
I love. You know, obviously I come from I haven't got kids, and there's no plans to have kids in the immediate future, eventually, but not in the immediate future. So to see it from your point of view, and the things that you say have become troublesome are so unexpected for me. Like that, if you said let's meet in Scotland, we get in a car, we drive to Scotland, or we get in a plane, whatever, the thought that suddenly has to go into that is crazy. And I've got two close friends who one is due any day now, and another is due in a few months' time. And I said to you the other night, it's like watching it on lag, on a delay. They're so unprepared. I can't wait, because I know what they're going to go through, and I can't wait to see them do it. They think it's going to be a breeze.
I was like, yeah, I'll have a kid. She'll just come on tour with me. Everything will be fine. No worries. Bonnie comes, whoosh, fucking piano lands on my head.
But I do want to say one thing, and this is credit to Annie as well, and your family, and the way you operate your life. When you talk about Annie, the business, or Bonnie, you light up every single time, and that to me, as someone who tries to watch people quite closely and learn from people, that's such a nice thing to see, because even all the trouble and the stress and all these things, which is obvious, nothing has taken that spark when you talk about them. And I think that's quite special, especially the connection to Annie, because obviously you're going through all this stress together and you're experiencing things in a very different way. I'd imagine a mum and a dad experience things in different ways. To see that spark still, like when you laugh, when you tell the stories on the podcast, it's really nice. It's great.
Yeah,
and the business is a close third.
Do you know what it is, right? Like, so of course my priority is my family. The reason for me that the business is so close behind that is because yes, we can say all the things. I love drums, I love doing all that stuff, but it's because since Bonnie's been here, like my fucking drive to make the life that she needs and wants, and Annie too, is gone through the roof. Like it's actually a bit overwhelming, to be honest. Like it's, you know, I wish there was 36 hours in every day, because I'm like, I can't fucking do enough, you know. And so it's so yes, we acknowledge that I love being around the drums and all that stuff, but really it's because I'm trying to build what they need, you know, and actually Annie sent me a post the other day that really sort of hit my heart. Like, I can't remember what it was, but basically it was saying that of course we acknowledge how much the mother's life changes, and they are the primary caregiver, and we will never understand that. That's their experience for a woman, and this is our experience for the man. But men also change too, you know, like we change a lot, and I think acknowledging that is super important as well, you know. And I'm super grateful that my wife does acknowledge that. And
what that ancestral hunter-gatherer mode must have really kicked in now, because
like
you've literally got to, you know,
correct,
to provide.
Yeah, totally. Like it's I can't describe it. It's really hard to describe until you sort of go through it. And that's those cliches that everyone says, like, you don't know until you have a kid, but you actually fucking don't. Do you know what I mean? It's really true. Like it, and those are all the things I'm sort of realizing with it. And I think the biggest thing, like, to go back to sort of what I've learned this year, and like sort of stepping away from drums in that capacity, is that I was like, I want her to know this part of my life as well, right? And it's really easy to, I find it easy, I should speak to my experience, that like I forget that we've got our entire fucking life together, right? Like I forget that sometimes when we're in the throes of like tiredness and stress and tension and all those. Like I don't want to talk about the negative too much, but those are the things that stick in your mind really at the moment, because that's what we're experiencing day to day. But I forget that we've got many years together. Having said that, the reason that I'm not away all the time is because this is only going to happen once, and I'm fucking grateful and glad that I did make that decision now on this side of it. Yes, I miss the drums, yes, but I can deal with all that. I process that in the ways that I process it, but I can never get this time back with, I call it a little pit with Bonnie. So I'm super grateful.
Well, exactly right. You might have the whole lifetime, but that lifetime consists of lots of little one-off moments,
yes,
that you don't want to miss.
Exactly. And
I think, you know, although we mentioned the negatives and some of the downsides of it, if you didn't feel those, you wouldn't care.
Yes.
That shows how much it means to you.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can relate to that in a lot of ways. You know, the things that stress me out, I get stressed out because I care. If I didn't care, there'd be no stress.
Of course.
You'd go, fuck it. Yeah, but I just can't do that, you know?
Yeah.
I forget we can swear on this podcast. It's great. So, yeah, I can understand that and see where you're coming from. And I think, you know, from what you've told me, full credit to Annie as well, because she's going through all these things, and from what I can tell is doing an amazing job. And I look forward to the day that Bonnie buys out my shares in the business.
Which, speaking of which, actually, like, we don't have to go into it, but she has an ISA.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which is good.
Which I know no one listening will know this, but between me and Al, this is something we've been talking about for a long time, and I think that's great that you've started that little pot for her.
Do you know what? Even if it's like minimal things, you know, like, again, it's like, this is part of the dad life. Like, I'm learning to be financially literate, so I want Bonnie to learn that too. I mean, we're not going to go into finance, but yeah. So that's dad life, and that's the truth of it. That's the rawness of it. That, like, last time we spoke about it, it was all kind of giggles because we were talking about that, but now we're in the throes of having a baby. Like, yes, all those giggles exist, and it's fucking beautiful, and it fills me with so much joy, and there is really tough shit that comes with it too, and that's kind of where we're at the moment, and I want to be as honest and open as possible as that with that.
Well, I'm looking forward to the voice notes from the next flight, and if they're not super too far one way, if they are family friendly at least a little bit, we might put them into the next episode. We'll try and put them in.
Yeah. Do you know what, we're gonna eventually build like some intros and like sort of pre-recorded intros for this, and I was listening to a dad podcast, and their kids are on it. So
cool.
when she does start talking,
we'll do a Bonnie Can Open DadLife.
Exactly. Yeah, we can get her recorded. And just on that as well, like she is starting to talk, or like not talk. She's not talking because she's 6 months old. She's starting to make noises, and this is a really funny thing that she's doing. So she's learning to move her mouth, but she's trying to copy us. So she does these fucking movements that you like. Obviously, I find it super giggly and cute because I'm her dad, but like genuinely, they are hilarious to watch as well. You know, it's like the maddest thing is they go from this little squishy thing and they like kind of unfold like a flower almost, you know, without sort of being too like woo about it, but they quite literally do that, you know. And now she's got like everything that we have as adults, but this miniature version. So her hands look like mine, but they're really miniature, you know. Or like, so the facial expressions are like, it's like when you catch yourself doing really like automatic things. You know, if you're concentrating and you make a face or like you make a noise you didn't mean to make. She's doing that all the fucking time, and it sounds like Nanny. So it's really funny.
I'd imagine like if an alien was trying to mimic a human,
exactly,
because she doesn't know what she's doing yet. She's just mimicking. That must be funny.
It's
that
hilarious.
Must be
it's fucking hilarious. So yeah, that's where we're at with DadLife. I feel like I've probably summarised that a few times. I could talk about Bonnie probably more than I could talk about drums these days, but I won't. We'll move on.
We'll do a Bonnie special.
We'll do a special on a little bit. So there's a little bit of news that I want to talk about as well. We're kind of nearly at the end. I'm just going to check where we're at time wise. Yeah, we're okay for time. So when this gets released, I think...
Fuck it, Al, it's free. They can listen for as long as it takes. It just goes 2 hours, it's 2 hours.
When this comes out, I think the entries will be closed, but I want to talk about it anyway, is Young Drummer of the Year 2023. The entries have been open since October, I think 15th of October to the 15th of November. Most people listening to this are probably aware of Young Drummer of the Year. If you're not, it's a competition run by Mike Dolbear. It's in its 21st year, but they missed a COVID year, so it's in its 20th year of the competition. It's arguably the biggest drum competition, certainly in the UK, maybe even one of them in the world. It's amazing. Not only is it amazing because of its size, but what it does for the drum industry. I mean, what Mike Dolbear's done for the fucking drum industry is, I mean, yeah, we could do multiple episodes on that. I've been lucky enough to study with him a little bit before Bonnie came. He's a really nice guy. And the Young Drummer of the Year is a competition that happens every year, and young drummers send in video entries, and then they get selected and go into like a live sort of round. And I'm not entirely sure how it works round robins. I've never been. I plan to go next year. I've never had the opportunity to go, so I'm going to go next year. Maybe we could go together. Actually,
I'd love
cool. And they compete. They have it out now.
Live on stage. In front of an audience.
Yeah, in front of an audience, and it's.
Is it so? To a novice, is it Britain's Got Talent style where there's a panel of judges and they decide? Or is it the audience that votes? Who decides?
Again, do you know what? I don't know because I've never been. I'm pretty sure it's a panel of judges, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, okay, you don't know, so that'd be interesting. Because I'd imagine it's really interesting if that's guest judges every year. You know, that'd be interesting.
I think again, like I need to go and find out about it. And the reason I'm talking about it is because I want to share like my experience with it, which is very little, and I want to learn about it and go and check it out. The reason, obviously, it's so appealing to us is we have young drummers in here every week. Like we have a lot of young drummers in here, and there is definitely students on my radar for the future that I would love to
Which
push
would be
in that
amazing
direction.
To get students.
Be amazing, yeah. Not even for the affiliation, just like for the student. I think it's amazing. You know, like the amount of. So the way the drummers that have won that competition and been in that competition have gone on to have amazing careers. Not only because they're amazing. Not only because of the sort of notoriety of the competition, but because they're amazing drummers, and the standard is fucking high. Like it's not like, oh yay, we're playing the drums. It's like, no, these fucking kids are killing it.
They're like ready to get on stage.
Oh, they're ready to like they could quite easily just tour and go pro now. You know, like, and they're like under 18. It's really impressive.
Is that the cut-off age, 18?
I believe so. I think it's like 12 to 18, something like that. So yeah, it's like. It's very intense. It's very high level, which actually why is on my sort of radar is to start like I was going to use the word grooming. Then that's not the right word at all. Yeah. Start sort of training these students. You know, like to work towards that now, because when they're 8 and 10, like, it's going to take a lot of fucking work to get there. It's not going to be a case
also,
of...
it's a hell of a goal, and it's something,
Yes.
it's that, you know, I know you like to use the term North Star, that to work towards, that when,
Yeah.
you know, if you're good enough as soon as you're this age, we'll put you in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we'll support you through that process. Would be a fantastic thing to do.
Definitely. And for us, you know, like, in terms of not the fiscal side of it, but for the business, to have students that are associated with that, that's awesome for the drum community. I want to be involved in that.
Yeah, exactly, and it's nothing to do with that. You know, the business side of it is more that you want to be the best we can be, and if that is teaching the best, then that's the natural progression, that they're good enough to be in that competition. It's amazing.
Yeah,
100% you want to be on board with that, and we should definitely go next year, by the way.
Yes, we will. And maybe we'll take a bunch of students with us and see who's up for it.
Yeah, take over.
Pens everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, on that, if anyone's listening and they want some merchandise, we do have merch available in our shop now. A little pre-Christmas run.
Yeah, and we've worked hard on that. It's good quality stuff. It's not just a T-shirt with a logo slapped on it. We have got the T-shirts, but you know,
and there's actually a funny point on that when Jordan was asking me about it. Not to say that Jordan wanted to stack them and sell them cheap. That's not what I'm saying. I was like, I want, like, you know, bamboo or like organic cotton.
Yeah, yeah.
You're a bit like, really? I'm like, abso-fucking-lutely,
Yeah.
because there's nothing I hate more than when you, and not to say you didn't understand this, I'm just explaining from why I had that perspective in my mind. Like, you know, quality, you like, so the journey, right? You find a brand you love, or like someone you love, and they do that, and then all this stuff they put out is really, really good. And you order a T-shirt and it's utter shit,
Yeah.
and it lasts about 2 years.
Yeah.
That was not what I wanted to do. I would rather have expensive, or slightly more expensive, but one that someone's going to be able to wear for the next 30 years. Like, that's really important.
Well, and actually, it was a nice little challenge, because I had to make some calls and find a company that does the recycled cotton and all this stuff, and they're nice guys, and the T-shirts are really good quality. I've been wearing them in the gym. They haven't stretched or anything. It's fantastic.
So we've got. Sorry, no, you're about to do it.
We got T-shirts. We got the practice journals. We've got
Totes.
tote bags, and any orders over £30 will get a little branded pen thrown in for free.
Yeah.
So get creative and start to represent.
Yeah, and head over, check it out. And if you aren't on our mailing list and you want to be, go to alsdrumschool.co.uk, because we sometimes do nice things like discounts and bundles and all that type of stuff, especially at this time of year coming up to Christmas.
Also, if you do sign up to the mailing list via the homepage of the email, you will get a link to a free lesson as well. So
you will. You'll get a free lesson. We're also about to drop some more free lessons that I'm not sure how we're going to do that. We might do it to the mailing list first. Usually that's what we do. We'll put it out to mailing list first, and then it sort of goes out into the
best
ether.
thing to do is make sure you're following us on socials, because eventually everything will go on socials, so then you don't miss anything.
Yes. Yeah, correct. Just to quickly put it back to Young Drummer of the Year, that competition, the entries are closed, but head to youngdrummeroftheyear.co.uk, check out all the stuff that's on there. It's also super inspiring. If you're a young drummer and you just want some inspiration, it's rad. Those players are killing it. Like, you know, they'd give, like, some long-term career players, they'd give them a run for their money.
Yeah,
man.
well, I just saw the clips that you were playing before we hit record, and it's crazy. That's why I don't want to ever play the drums on this podcast, because it will never be anywhere like that.
Do you know what? Like, this is kind of leaning into the next thing that I wanted to mention on this podcast as well, is we're going to start bringing guests on next year. This will be our last long form for this year, I think, is what we planned. There'll be another couple of mini episodes. If we can get another long form in before Christmas,
it'd be nice to do a little Christmas episode, but let's see.
But we're going
See
to
what
start
Bonnie's
bringing
schedule
guests
is.
on, and Mike Dolbear is actually one that's kind of on my radar. So
That'd be cool.
we'll have to work up to things like that. We're going to learn how that process works and how we do that, rather than just calling someone and being like, you can hear someone practice in the background. Lots of drummers down here. Rather than, I don't know how that process works, but we won't necessarily need to get into that. But anyway, my point is, we're going to start bringing guests on. My aim for guests is to bring on dads who are also drummers. It's not criteria; they don't have to be, but and also people that are just generally, like, I think, really inspiring people and creatives. I think it's really cool to do that. Often that line crosses over. I know some drummers who are also dads and also creatives, or like one or two of the thing, or whatever it is. So we're going to bring those people on. We probably will bring some business orientated guests on as well.
I think it's going to be a mixed bag of guests, which is quite exciting. It's not going to have one single vein, but the core will be that these people are are worth hearing, worth listening to. They've got
Yes.
knowledge that needs to be part.
Yeah. So you won't just have to listen to me and Jordan banging on about utter nonsense for an hour.
That should still be the highlight.
Mate, the fucking
Hearing me do a 20-minute monologue on
the
business.
highlight is Jordan Google's drumming, mate. That is the absolute highlight.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but it is.
I have to do a highlight reel of these. Maybe I'll write a little drumming dictionary. Yeah, there we go.
Anyway, that's us for this week and this fortnight. We're doing this fortnightly, so that's us for this fortnight. I've really enjoyed it, mate. Thanks.
No worries. I always enjoy these meetings. I enjoy being embarrassed on air. I enjoy exploring my.
That's not a dynamic in our relationship, I should say, by the way.
It's only when we're on
It's
air.
only when we're.
Yeah. Anyone who doesn't know us thinks I'm here to be ridiculed.
I have a high amount of respect for
Yeah.
Jordan, and like
Clearly.
we do take the piss out of each other a little bit, but not to the extent that we do when.
I love
when he
these
wants to know
podcasts. I
about
live
drumming.
for these podcasts.
Maybe you should bring me onto your business podcast.
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and
throw it
then
back at
we'll
me a little
really
bit.
go. Yeah, actually, yeah, we'll do that.
Why did you spend 100 quid on these stocks, you fucking idiot?
Yeah. Tell me how low your portfolio
Because they're
has
cheap,
gone.
mate, because they're cheap. That's how it works.
Yeah,
Isn't it?
Al's trying to model Jordan Belfort's way of trading penny stocks. Yeah. Anyway, let's wrap it up before
Let's
we
wrap
go
it
too
up.
heavy on that.
It's been a pleasure, guys and girls. Thanks for listening. Follow all the social accounts. We haven't said this yet, but I want to say it at the end because I want to get like a proper podcast start, is leave us a review, because I know that they make a big difference. Just take 5 minutes, not even, that's probably like 2 minutes, to leave us a little review. If you want to leave a comment too, if you want to send voice notes to the Instagram and give us stuff to talk about, we'd love to hear from you. Head over to alsdrumschool.co.uk to find everything you need, all the merch we talked about, our courses, our video lessons, all that type of stuff, or book an in-person lesson if you're local in Sussex, or if you're not, we can teach you on Zoom. So come join the family, come be part of the team, and we will see you in the next one.
5-star reviews only, please. See you later, guys.
Cheers.
You won't create a style, because style is a crystallization, you know. And that way, it's a process of continuous